So the first phase then of what is expected to be a series of savage court battles for political supremacy over the disputed presidential election results. Battles that'll rage with unremitting ferocity over the next few months, with Bola Tinubu of the APC and the Electoral Commission, INEC, ranged against the opposition, led by Atiku Abubakar of the PDP and Peter Obi of the Labour Party. That first phase played out in court today, with both INEC and the opposition coming out top gun, apparently. That court sitting in Abuja has granted the Electoral Commission INEC's request to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS, which allows INEC to use those machines to conduct the governorship and state assembly elections on Saturday. But it's made clear that the order that grants the opposition parties the right to access the INEC materials they need to mount their legal challenge is still in force, with INEC giving assurances that it will not tamper with any of that material, which it says is safe in the back end of the BVAS system. So is it a win-win all around then? Well, for reaction to today's ruling, I'm joined now in the studio by Senator-elect Victor Umeh of the Labour Party, who was in court when that verdict was delivered. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Charles.
A mighty battle you fought there, but you came out victorious.
Well, thank God Almighty.
But we will talk about that, hopefully, a little bit before we get to the end of this conversation. But let's start with that. What happened in court today? Tell us more.
Well, the Court of Appeal delivered ruling on an application by the Independent National Electoral Commission to vary the orders it made on a previous ex parte application brought by Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of our party, and the party itself. The INEC requested the Court of Appeal to grant her permission to reconfigure the BVAS machines so that they can use that for the conduct of the governorship and House of Assembly elections on the 11th of March. And the previous order the court made was that Mr. Obi and Labour Party should be granted access to all the materials used in conducting the presidential election on the 25th of February, including information contained in the BVAS machines. So INEC had to come back with an application for the order to be varied. But it is instructive to also note that since the orders were made on the 3rd of March, that was last week, Friday, the INEC never allowed our lawyers access to any of the materials the court directed INEC to grant access to our lawyers. And
did you bring that up in court today?
Yes, of course. They are aware because our lawyers have been going there repeatedly. Nothing was shown to them. And I'm sure their refusal to grant us access was because of the application they have brought to vary the order. But today, 2 rulings were rendered, and the first one was that INEC can configure or reconfigure the BVAS machines to be able to perform their constitutional duty to conduct elections it had scheduled for 11th of March. But that was given with reliance to paragraph 8 of INEC's affidavit in support of the application, that all the information contained in the BVAS machine will be transferred to a back-end server, and that nothing will be lost at all, absolutely. And it will be easy to retrieve those information on demand. So that is
that's what happened in court.
That's what happened in court. And of course, the justice that read the ruling had to emphasize more that no information stored in that BVAS machine, which INEC had undertaken, will be transferred safely to a backend server should be missing.
Right.
So it's a conditional approval they were given.
So were you happy with the outcome of today's court?
Well, this is a technological-driven election at this time, but we are happy and relaxed that INEC has taken greater responsibility to ensure that all those information stored in the BVAS machines will be retrieved on demand without loss of any item. If you understand what that portends, it means that INEC has taken responsibility to prove at all material times that the information stored in the BVAS machines will be made available.
But is that
where they fail?
Right. But is that different from the same promise or a similar promise that INEC made before the elections, that all the results will be uploaded to the IREV server in real time and that people would be able to see it and access all the material, and that never happened? And that's part of their guidelines, which is if you like, which is subject to electoral law.
Yeah, failure to do those things as they promised before the conduct of the election has become a problem on itself. That's why the outcome of the election, presidential results, have become controversial. Now, but it is much more dangerous now that INEC has made this promise in an affidavit in a court.
Right.
And the order the Court of Appeal made was in full reliance to that promise. It's an undertaking of some sort. The other one was a promise, we'll do everything fine. But now, they have told the court that this is going to be this way. This information will not be tampered with. And on demand, the information will be made available. No item will be lost. It is very dangerous to the petition.
Right.
That when, in the course of proceedings at the tribunal, the lawyers to the petitioners complain that some items supposedly stored in the BVAS have not been retrieved from the backend server, it has put a serious problem on the side of INEC. That will create serious problem that can annul the election.
And that can help build your case.
Yes, to help build the case, because if the information which they guaranteed stored in a backend server are no longer available, they have washed away the election.
But you do concede that, I mean, holding the election is a national priority for INEC and for Nigerians, and if they are not able to configure those BVAS machines, then those elections would have to be postponed.
You see, the INEC has taken more than it can chew at this time, but we'll leave it to them. It is a responsibility to conduct the election. The feasibility of doing everything right within 48 hours, reconfigure the machines, is their own cup of tea. First of all, you have to transfer those information to the back-end server as they claim they will be able to do. First of all, before you reconfigure the machines, for them to be able to do it for the entire polling units in Nigeria within 48 hours and logistically get ready for the conduct of election on the 11th of March is their own issue.
Yeah, well, so, they could come out and say, whoops, I'm afraid we made a horrible mistake. We're utterly, utterly sorry, but we deleted the thing accidentally.
Oh, they deleted it accidentally.
Well, I'm saying that's a possibility.
If that happens,
I'm not saying it's probable.
If that happens,
and I can't cast aspersions on INEC.
To us, the party that actually won that election, the Labour Party, and our candidate.
Well, that's a claim. Yes, that's not been proven yet.
It's a claim, but I'm telling you, you get to see that. And if they now say that nothing is available, they've deleted it mistakenly, what do you mean that they've deleted the election?
Right.
And any return made thereof will be voided.
Right.
So you must have to take into account the implications of that action.
Yeah, but does today's development in court move you, in your assessment, a step closer to your stated ambition of reclaiming a mandate for Peter Obi that you have said that you believe was stolen from him? Or does it move you further away?
No, it didn't move us further away. We are still on course, in the sense that the court ordered INEC again, to grant unhindered access to all the materials used for the conduct of that presidential poll to Mr. P2B and the Labour Party and their councils. So if all the records will remain as used during the election, it will be very easy for us to do forensic audit.
Right.
Because one was that we also, in our application, requested the court to order that we'll be allowed to conduct a forensic audit of all these materials. So there's no way we can go through that without catching them here and there. You know, so that's the problem. And when they wanted the court to vary the order it made, they made an application that was vague. There was no specific item. They asked the court to vary, you know, for them to be able to ensure compliance. So the court also told them, you've not told us what you want us to vary, and your application has failed. So we stand by our earlier order that you must provide all those materials, ballot papers, voters registration document, voters registers, ballot papers, contents of the BVAS machine, those information like number of accredited voters, number of people who, you know, this and that, scores and all that. So if the orders remain the same, and INEC went on in an affidavit, stated that they will transfer all those things into a back-end server and nothing will be lost. So the entire process is still covered. It's like an insurance.
Right.
Yeah. So
well, I mean, you have said publicly that you have enough evidence to recover that alleged mandate.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what that evidence is. Because, for example, you said that Mr. Obi, or you were quoted as saying, and you can clarify that for us, that Mr. Obi won more than 2 million votes in Rivers State.
I don't know who said
but
that.
was well, I mean, it's quoted in several newspapers.
These are social media.
But was shortchanged, and the final, but I mean, the final tally saw Bola Tinubu emerge victorious with 231,591 votes, as against Mr. Peter Obi's 175,000 odd votes. I mean, how could he have won more than 2 million votes when the total number of accredited voters stood at 605,000?
I never
okay,
ever,
because you were quoted as
I
saying that, so I'm glad you clarified
I never
that.
ever said anything like that to anybody.
Right.
One thing that was clear was that from evidence available to us from even people who were part of the conduct of the exercise made videos to explain what transpired on the day of election in Rivers. Like, you know, Biokpo local government area, where the actual result was that Mr. Obi and Labour Party had 70,239 votes, and APC had 3,000 votes. What they declared finally was that APC got 80,239 votes, and Labour Party now down to 3,000.
Yeah, but is there enough of that across polling booths around? Because you see, there's a difference. You're not just asking for the election to be annulled because there were, you consider that there were many irregularities. You're saying that he won the election. There's a big difference.
No, the petition has not even been drafted. So our claim is speculative in the media. What we are saying is that it is obvious that there were too many infractions in the conduct of the election. So the way it goes, I'm an experienced somebody in matters of election petition for 20 years now. When you start, you begin to assemble evidence.
Right.
But by the time you file your petition, you distill the material evidence you've collected to determine what to ask the court to do for you. Whether to declare your winner
within the realm of possibility,
right, or to cancel the election outright and repeat it. You know, so the reaction will be gradual.
Right.
Yes, and
so there's a marked difference between the things that you've been quoted as saying.
No, I never said those
in the court of public opinion.
I never granted such
and the
interview.
things that you're likely to say in a court
no,
of law.
I never granted such interview. What I said was that looking at the things we've gathered from our agents across the country, not only Rivers State, We have Plateau State, we have Lagos State. We have many other states where it was clearly obvious that wrong figures were declared. We're putting them together. And by the time we finish our forensic audit of the BVAS machine and compare it to what we have, already they have uploaded some results in the IRF portal, and the figures are remarkably different in some places. So you know you're dealing with a nationwide election, not just a sports election. By the time you pick from here and there, you add the figures and see where you stand. But for clarity, it is obvious that INEC did not keep to the rules and guidelines they set for the conduct of the election.
Right.
Yes, I watched a video yesterday where an SPO or a presiding officer somewhere in Abia State, a lady, said that when they finished the election, they wanted to upload the results. Only the National Assembly election results were going on, but the presidential election access couldn't open up. So it was obvious that some manipulation was done to achieve a wrong end in the presidential election.
Well, I'm glad you're making that clarification between saying that Peter Obi won the election, because you'd have to find, 2 million something votes, almost 3 million, to exceed the votes of Bola Tinubu in order to prove that. And the fact that you're saying that there were considerable irregularities, which is the position of the PDP, basically. And therefore, what you would be calling for is much more likely to be a cancellation of the election and a repeat of the result, a repeat of the ballot.
I'm a very prudent person in matters of figures. There was no way I could have said that we had 2 million voters.
Right, I'm not just talking about you, I'm talking about the position of your party, which has been that he won the election.
Yes, you can't you see when the result was announced, where did you see celebration in Nigeria? If those people voted for the declared winner, there will be wide jubilation across Nigeria. One youth was shown to have hanged himself in Plateau State. He gave up hope that Peter Obi, who looked up to salvage the country, has been rigged out, and he hung himself and left a suicide note. So if the popular thing had been done, it will show everywhere. So the gloom that gripped the country with that declaration showed that some other person won the election. And Peter, since that election was declared, had become more popular. The other day, last week, we came here, he had a press conference here in Transcorp Hilton. As soon as he was cited inside Transcorp, there was wild noise everywhere. People, this is the way to see who has won an election.
So just in terms of the language, he said he was robbed of victory.
Yes, because if INEC had done the correct thing, if everything had been seamless, this controversy wouldn't have been there.
Right.
If INEC had done the needful and played above board, why should you have an election where the results were not uploaded even within 48 hours? We're still waiting to get this thing done. So something happened. Somebody, if I remember, the INEC chairman had said that there was some sabotage somewhere. So if the chief electoral officer has said by himself that there was some sabotage, he held meeting with his regional electoral commissioners last weekend. The REC in Sokoto has been suspended. So it goes to through clearly that something was wrong with the election.
Yeah, but the question is whether that thing was substantial enough
until you finish
to lead to the cancellation of the ballot.
You said 2 million, maybe too much to offset. It is not. It's a very little thing. Let's open up the space.
Right.
Let's have access to.
Well, obviously, we'll wait and see.
We are waiting
happens.
Because this time around, the orders we asked for were comprehensive enough. We also asked that we should be allowed to take electronic copies, even the ballot papers, so that any place we consider that the results were not right, we go there and insist on a recount. We want to see the ballot papers and see how those things tallied with the records in the BVAS in terms of number of voters accredited. You have to count the ballot papers to ensure that in those ballot papers will be the same number of accredited voters, voting, plus or minus some little differences.
Right.
So when you plot a graph and you begin to see infractions shooting out of the curve, the election is already damaged.
Well, we've got about a minute and a half or so left, sadly. I know you've got to run, and we appreciate your coming in. But let's talk briefly about your victory in the National Assembly elections. I mean, you defeated the PDP's rather formidable candidate, Uche Ekwunife, in the Anambra Central senatorial district. In fact, you unseated her. You must be deliriously happy with that result.
Not only I defeated her, I defeated the candidate of the ruling party in the state, the ABGA candidate. And the figures were very large in gap. The PDP got about 49,000, I got 103,000. The ABGA candidate got about 69,000. So it goes to show you that our people were determined to elect somebody they can trust with their affairs at the National Assembly. One thing that is very important in the Parliament is being able to have a representative who will be able to stand up at all critical times in the proceedings in the Senate or the National Assembly to fight for their rights and defend them and contribute meaningfully on national debates on issues. You don't keep having people who will go to the National Assembly and divert the attention of the people on the primary duties of a National Assembly member, senator or Federal House of Rep member. The people who have had there are doing other things other than what they were sent there to do. When people begin to campaign that they built 2-bedroom bungalows for widows and all that, and when important decisions were made at the National Assembly, they were absent, or they allowed certain things to go. There was one issue I made.
Very briefly, because we're almost out of time.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. So our people made clear choice, and of course our presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, was another driving force in the election.
Right.
If you look at it, you see that the choices our people made were correct choices of people who can go there and represent them and make the remarkable difference. And that's why we're there. I'm not new to them, remember?
Right.
I was at the 8th Senate, and I did marvelously well for them in just 17 months. I was at the national conference in 2014, so I'm not a stranger.
Right.
But people know what I can do.
Well, you certainly are not a stranger to Nigerian politics. So I want to say congratulations, and thank you very much indeed for giving us the time this evening to talk with you. And Victor Umeh is Senator-elect of the Labour Party.
Let's keep faith with the legal process.
We certainly will.
The last has not been heard. We've done it before.
We'll
went through this process to become governor.
Keep an eye on it.
We've started this one. God will bless our efforts.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja and Kaduna. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.